FYI, this is a spoiler-free video, so if you haven't watched the movie, you don't have to worry about anything. When the Oscar nominations were announced, we almost already knew what was coming in every category. Every single precursor award had pretty similar nominees. In the case of Best Actress in a Motion Picture, we got Kate Blanchett for Tar, Ana de Armas. But for our surprise, Andrea Riseborough from a movie most people didn't even hear of was there. Today, we'll be responding to questions. Does Andrea Riseborough's performance deserve an Oscar? Or at least, was the movie To Leslie even good? The first time I've heard about To Leslie was when I first watched it in October 15th of 2022, back when not many people had watched it, and months before being nominated for the Oscars. I'm talking about a total of 1,000 ratings on Letterboxd. That's fundamentally nothing, with ratings circling around the 3.4 out of 5 stars. And after the nomination, the ratings are still the same. That for me basically means this is a forgettable small indie movie that's just okay enough. But back then, I watched it anyways, because I had nothing better to do. And surprise, surprise, it got nominated for an Oscar. And I'm not gonna lie, back then, I actually kinda liked it. Enough. And for most people, the reaction was exactly the same as mine. The movie's alright, but Andrea Riseborough's performance is definitely the best thing about it. So in that way, we could say most people agreed that Riseborough's performance was actually good. And I guess that's all that you need to deserve an Oscar nomination? Yeah, but most people may have the same questions. What about all the other actresses that got nominated in previous awards but not the Oscars? Viola Davis, Olivia Colman, and others? Because at the end of the day, we're talking about a movie that most people didn't watch or didn't even knew, and barely earned anything at the box office. But then, you will ask the question, does indie movies with not much of an audience are then completely ripped off the Oscars? Don't they deserve a chance? The purpose of this video is to talk about To Leslie, and Andrea Riseborough's performance on its own, but also bringing the Oscar bait term into account and the sketchy marketing strategies to promote the film. The first 5 minutes of the movie start with a flashback of Leslie, where we see her celebrating after winning the lottery, and immediately after we jump 6 years later, where we see her in this tiny room where she's currently living, finding out she owes money and can't afford to live there anymore. She gets kicked out and decides to waste some money at a bar and forget about her problems, I guess. It's immediately obvious all her money's gone, and we will soon find out what happened to her to end up like this. And that's the first 5 minutes of the film. That's as far as I'll go story-wise, because I believe this movie is worth watching and it deserves to be watched knowing little to nothing to really enjoy the way it's supposed to. About Andrea Riseborough's performance, well, she's great. In every single scene of this movie, I was constantly telling myself, she is the movie. She did fundamentally everything she could to be Leslie. It's not only some scenes, it's the whole movie. It's the in-betweens of the rage and the tears and the screams, where she stands still, moving her head a little bit, her posture, her eyes, the way she moves. We can not only see her actions, but we can feel them. And that's completely independent from the story, that's on the actress. The relationship she has with different characters can also show her acting range. It's nuanced and it's tender. And it can be very strong and expressive when it has to. If I could just bring some examples of the relationships she has with different characters and how important they are in both dialogue and time and space, will be awesome. But this feels more of a character-based story, which means it doesn't have a clear plot. And that's why I liked it. And that's why I can't spoil these moments, because these moments are the movie. During the first 5 minutes, we can clearly tell Andrea Riseborough started strong, taking this film very seriously. The way she begs to her neighbors, how she interacts with the space, knocking on doors, disturbing people, and screaming all over the place. That's our introduction to Leslie. With her smile and her frustration, this duality is shown all over the movie. Dancing and drinking with her red lipstick, and then she's just smoking in the middle of the street. Her personality can feel very powerful and bossy when she can, but it can rapidly decline into a helpless soul when they figure her out. I know in this current age there's been a bit of a bad rap into what constitutes a good acting performance, where the only way people can value the talent of an actor is by those overly dramatic screaming scenes. I like a good screaming scene. They still have a value and a sense to them. And we all know actors win awards not because of a moment, not because of a scene. Do people think Adam Driver got nominated for an Oscar back in 2020 just because of this scene? Obviously not. It's also about the quiet moments. the dialogue, events, the body language, and fundamentally about the movie itself. The movie, in one way or another, needs to be good, or at least not bad, for an actor to be appreciated for it. Is that completely true? Well, Ana de Armas' nomination is a contradiction then. Did someone actually like Blonde? I guess not, but she got a nomination for it. So, does a movie need a name, a brand, a budget for being appreciated enough for having a nomination, even if it's bad? Well, the Leslie didn't have a budget, but Andrea Riseborough still got that nomination. The movie didn't have a name, a brand, exposure, not even a budget for marketing, and here it is, competing for an Oscar. So, can we separate the actor from the movie? I don't think so still. In one way or the other, To Leslie sort of forced itself to have all the things it needed to be nominated. Didn't have a budget or exposure? Well, let's be the small movie with a big heart. Didn't have a name? Well, Andrea Riseborough can be the front page of the film, definitely. We all like her. I like her. Is the movie good? It's okay. It's derivative, it's been done a million times. It's inspirational enough to be considered an Oscar bait, I guess. The movie is a lot of things. It's small in a way that makes it better, focused and connected. It's full of emotional moments and unique scenes. It's nuanced when it wants to be. And there's a lot of things this movie is good at. But it's also obvious, expected, safe. Yeah, but in all fairness, aren't most Oscar-nominated movies painfully safe? Also, yeah. So can To Leslie deserve a nomination? My answer in that case will be yes. The purpose of this video at first was to respond to the question, does Andrea Riseborough deserve a nomination? Is To Leslie even a good movie? And I tried to respond that without the comparison, without the circling debate of what makes a movie deserve an Oscar. Why do we always complain about the Oscars giving awards to movies with a big budget, world-class directors, beautiful cast, inspirational stories? We're so used to that, the second we see a movie that doesn't have the criteria fully, we feel uncomfortable by the fact. Because To Leslie wasn't nominated to previous awards, it means it can't be nominated for an Oscar? Do we really like the rules? Because I know we don't, but we unconsciously like the comfortableness of them. We all like to tell ourselves, oh, here it is again, the film-like blockbuster won an Oscar, what a shocker. We like to tell ourselves we have a better taste, a better ethic than the Oscars. Do we really need to see our favorite films win an Oscar? We really don't. And yeah, we got great nominations this year. Tar, Everything Everywhere All at Once, The Banshees of Inisherin, Paul Mescal, whatever. It's great. But do we need these movies to win anything? We don't. We like the spectacle of it, the show, but movies aren't for Oscars, they're made for the people. At least that was the point, I thought. I guess that's what an Oscar bait is. A movie for the Oscars, but not for the people. A movie for the award, but not for the eyes. And To Leslie is something like that. It's a movie nobody talked about enough. People who watched it thought it was just alright, okay enough. And it kept being pushed for a nomination, specifically the Best Actress nomination. And a movie that forces itself to the spotlight just leaves a bad taste in my mouth. But also, I could tell Andrea Riseborough did a great performance. It was amazing, even. And I don't think she pushed herself to be anything. She's genuine and she's always been a great actress in most of the movies she's worked in. It's kind of sad how the marketing campaign of this movie pushed this actress nomination so hard that now her performance feels performative, if that makes any sense. The whole campaign was memified and Riseborough's genuine performance sort of got hurt because of it. Does Andrea Riseborough deserve to be nominated? Yes, totally, because she's great. But would her performance have been nominated if it wasn't pushed by people in the industry? Definitely not, and we all know that. Why do movies that don't have the resources have to go through all these marketing tactics to be recognized by the Academy? This only means two things. One, the Leslie marketing team cared about the nomination more than its own message. But I guess that's what the marketing team job is, to make the movie known to people, so I can forgive that. And number two, the Oscars are fun and all, but we shouldn't take them seriously anymore, even when they make the right decisions. If you like this video, you can subscribe to my channel, maybe leave a like, leave a comment, and I hope we can keep in touch. Goodbye.
Ready for the mosh pit, Shaka Bra.